This is Jacent Wamala. She's built a six-figure online education business helping women master their finances. So through the lifetime of the business, what do you think the revenue has been to date?
So the revenue has been just shy of $100,000, which is very exciting because proving a business model is actually kind of a tough thing to do. I'm spending a lot less time working and making more money.
But before building a purposeful and profitable business, Jacent was in a staggering amount of debt.
So paying off nearly $100,000 worth of debt, even when I think about it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty significant.
On top of that, she felt as though her life was completely falling apart.
And this kind of makes me a little emotional. So I unfortunately had gotten divorced, and my father passed away literally months later, just after I turned 24. I think on the outside, which probably happens for a lot of people, I looked like I was okay, but on the inside, just kind of crumbling in a lot of different ways.
Today, Jacent has turned her business and her life completely around. But how?
Effortless sales really comes down to.
So I flew to her home to find out how she went from $94,000 in debt to running a thriving online education business.
I'm Jacent Wamala. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist turned wealth coach for women, and I pretty much help high-achieving, high-earning women be able to learn how to manage their money better, stop impulse spending, pay off debt, and just create financial freedom and independence overall using psychology.
So through the lifetime of the business, what do you think the revenue has been to date?
Yeah, so the revenue has been just shy of $100,000, which is very exciting because proving a business model is actually kind of a tough thing to do.
What were the first steps that you took to actually get this business off the ground?
Effortless sales really comes down to being a great listener and understanding that people are in pain and they have a problem they're looking for the solution to. So if you can talk to someone to understand what that pain is, what contributes to it, what is it that they want, what do they think is getting in their way, that alone I think is different for folks in this day and age, because I think a lot of people feel like someone's always out to get something. And doing that builds a rapport, it builds a level of reciprocity, and you're not, by the end of it, you're not asking for anything. So you are a conduit or a vessel to help them get what they want or need. And as long as you don't get in the way of it, then you should be good to go.
Well, Jacent has been able to create an amazing business that afforded her, her family, and many others financial freedom. Things weren't always this way.
Paying off nearly $100,000 worth of debt, even when I think about it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty significant. But it really was set off by a lot of loss and a lot of grief. So I unfortunately had gotten divorced when I was 23, and my father passed away literally months later, just after I turned 24. So 2014 was a really difficult year, to say the least. I was also in graduate school to become a marriage and family therapist. So it just was a tough time. And I think on the outside, which probably happens for a lot of people, I looked like I was okay. Like I was going through the motions. I was still showing up physically, but on the inside, just kind of crumbling in a lot of different ways. It was like all of this life stuff happening, plus a lack of foundation of financial literacy. So splitting up homes and no longer living with my partner. So now I am having to take on the entire place by myself, which financially I was not prepared for at the time. Being in grad school, I ended up taking out more loans than I probably needed to, got into credit card debt, and just cause I'm just going, you know? And so that was 2014 to 2015 or so. I graduated 2015 in December. January 2017, I calculated my net worth. It was negative. And I recognized that I was at a crossroad.
With Jacent now being at a crossroads, she had to find a way to pull herself out of debt.
And so I ended up in 2017 learning how to manage my money better, applying for lots of jobs, and realizing that in 2016 I only made $17,800, which was just above poverty level. I looked it up, and with a master's degree, and I'm like, what the heck? This does not make sense, you know? There's no reason why I'm this highly educated and this this good at what I do and not doing well, that I ended up getting some more work by the end of 2017. I tripled my income. I moved in with my friend. I sold everything that was in my apartment. Like, I just completely turned my life inside out, and it worked. Like, I paid off my debt when COVID happened. So I had the best financial year when everything else was going haywire. And it's like really thinking about how you can set yourself up for success regardless of what's happening on the outside. If you make certain choices now that will benefit you later. That was just like such a lesson for me.
How did that journey for you kind of set the tone, set the stage for the work that you're now doing with your clients?
It really just started organically as like, this is what I accomplished with my own situation. People ask me questions, I answer them. I said, this is what I did, this is how I did it. And so people got to some extent, some like little results here and there, which was really cool, but it was really fragmented on my end. And I didn't have a cohesive way of being able to show up consistently and sustainably. And then thankfully, that's when I came across the Authority Accelerator that made it just like butter.
If you want to learn how to build a successful online education business like Jacente, who is part of my Authority Accelerator program, make sure to comment, "Give me the guide," to receive my free ebook on the 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without trading time for money. What were the key strategies in being able to build your business from scratch?
I knew that my levers were, at the time, my podcast and my Instagram. So I, reached out to that audience. Your audience will then lead to eventually cold people, which is what we want, so that you can test it with folks who don't already know you, like you, and trust you, so that you can keep your pipeline full. And so for me, it was the areas that I had already had, a level of community or network. And it was being able to set aside any idea of like, well, what are people going to think about me for doing things like this or asking this? But just saying, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. I want to help people. If I want to help people, this is what I'm going to do.
How have you consistently generated new clients?
Yeah, at this point, to consistently generate new clients, it's one, being able to serve the clients that I have really well, because then they will tell people naturally about what they're learning and the changes that they're making in their lives. So that's one thing. But then there's also, like, thankfully, once you prove something, you have testimonials and you have stories to tell. And so the more stories that we've collected, we share those stories. People are like, wow, if it's possible for this person, maybe it's possible for me.
These key strategies helped Jacente's business fly, but unfortunately, tragedy struck again.
So my husband has been healthy his entire life. He had a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke. He had a brain bleed. It was, right before New Year's. I spent New Year's night bawling my eyes out, wondering if my husband was going to be alive in the morning, because they wouldn't let me stay the night at the hospital. His pressure was so high that it created the brain bleed. We didn't know if they were going to have to operate on his brain. And it was inoperable when they took the scans. So it was like, well, we have to see what happens. We have to see if it resolves itself, or his whole left side was paralyzed. He'd never had an issue. He'd never had an issue before this. I don't even have words. It just turned me inside out. It turned everything inside out. And I didn't know if he was going to live or die that day. I didn't know if I was going to be able to see him. I didn't know if I was going to get there and it would have been too late. Like, it's just, you just never know.
Thankfully, her husband is on the road to recovery, but if it wasn't for a business model that allowed her freedom and flexibility, things could have been a lot worse.
Financial strain or financial hiccups or things it could happen to anyone at any time. And it's been less stressful, still a lot to handle, but a lot easier to manage and maintain because of the choices that we made. It's just a testament to me of why I do what I do, why it's important to serve in this way, so other people can have this information and be prepared for when life inevitably happens. Yeah. The month that he had the stroke, I still had 2 students enroll. in the program. And so it's like, this can continue to move forward. And this year, my students have gotten better results than they've ever gotten.
Jacent's story is so inspiring and powerful for anyone who wants to build a purposeful and profitable business. Despite having several major setbacks, Jacent was actually there for me personally when I was carrying my first child and helped through this challenging time. And for that, I am so forever grateful. So I wanted to return the favor. What do you feel like you need right now?
I think it's needing to create space, obviously, but it's like, how do I create that space? So, I think it has been more of a combination of needing specific support around, is it meal prep? Is it a nanny that comes maybe part-time or something along those lines?
What if we helped with that?
What has helped with that?
No, what if we helped with that?
What do you mean?
What if we got you support? What if we're going to do that? You're holding a lot. And you were so kind to me. And it'll be on your terms, whatever you want, to give you some time back, because I believe wholeheartedly in what you're doing. It's important what you're doing. So to have the space to do that.
It's so hard to be a woman. It's so hard to be a mom. It's so hard to show up and feel like you're holding the weight of the world and not give up. I feel like giving up sometimes. You've really helped me change my life. And so I'm eternally grateful, eternally, forever grateful. Because it's not just my life, it's my husband's life, it's my kids' life, it's my family and my friends, and I am so grateful. I cannot express it enough.
If this allows you to have a little more space, give you some time and focus back, then that's the best.
Thank you.
I'm so happy
Thank
to
you
do
so
it.
much. You pulled one on me.
I did! I pulled one on you! If you want to learn how to create a legacy business just like Jacent's, make sure to click the link below for our 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact ebook.